What is going on, Machinima Realm fans? My name is Trendkill, and welcome to my Borderlands 2 skill tree analysis for Maya the Siren. So, I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be an analysis or more of like a build guide preview thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But what I want to do is I want to kind of go through each of the characters, look at each of the characters' skill trees, and look at each skill inside those trees and kind of break apart and dissect and see exactly what are the skills that are going to be absolutely amazing and almost necessary to take if you go through that tree. And I also want to stop and look at some synergies, some combos, and maybe actually start to put some preliminary build ideas together. So, in case you guys didn't know, Gearbox has finally released the skill trees for all 4 of the initial classes. So we've got a Gunzerker skill tree, we've got a Siren, a Commando, and an Assassin skill tree. We do not have the Mechromancer just yet, but I hear the Mechromancer is going to be available, I guess, about 60 to 90 days after the launch of the game. So we've got a couple months before we can actually get our hands on any real information about the Mechromancer. So we're going to ignore her for now. And we're going to focus on the 4 initial playable characters. So, real quick, before we jump into the skill trees here with Maya, I want to go ahead and put a disclaimer out there. If you guys are watching this after Borderlands 2 has dropped, this is me speculating and kind of getting some ideas together before the game actually comes out. So I have no playable experience. I have no actual hands-on experience with this game. This is just my original knowledge of Borderlands, which I've beaten the game like 10 times or something ridiculous like that. And stuff I've read on the internet, videos I've watched, I'm taking all that information and knowledge and kind of compiling it and kind of giving you guys an idea of what I think the game is actually going to play like. So, just put that disclaimer out there, and let's get into the actual skill trees. If you guys have had any experience with Borderlands 2 or you've been doing any research, you probably know that Maya has a phase lock ability. Similar to Lilith's phase walk ability, phase walk used to send her to another dimension. Now the phase lock sends the enemy to the other dimension. Basically, it's like some crowd control. Really good crowd control, actually. So, this also says, and it's a note, some enemies cannot be phase locked. I'm assuming maybe large enemies or bosses, something like that, and instead instantly take direct damage. Now, this is on a cooldown of 13 seconds, which is really, really fast. Lilith's original phase walk ability was 36 seconds, I think, so we're talking like 3 times faster. You can phase lock a lot, and when we get into the motion tree, you're actually going to see that you can reduce this down to like 9 seconds. So your phase lock ability is going to be able to be used a ton. So if you're going to be playing Maya, you're going to want to use it. Anyway, so we've got the motion tree, the harmony tree, and the cataclysm tree. The motion tree is kind of like her phase lock tree. Harmony is a healing tree, and Cataclysm's like an elemental damage tree. So you've got 3 completely separate routes that you can go, or you can do a hybrid of all 3. All the different trees, I think, are going to be equally viable depending on the situation that you're in. Anyway, so let's start in the motion tree. Now, first off, I realize I'm talking really, really fast, but I've got a lot of information to fit into a video, and I don't want to make this like a 45-minute video, so excuse me if I'm talking kind of fast. Anyway, so the motion tree is going to be like more of her defensive tree, as you're going to see here in a second. So we've got ward, shield capacity, and shield recharge delay, which is really good. I have a hard-on for recharge. I don't know why. And then accelerate, damage, and bullet speed with all gun types. So since this is a defensive tree, and I want to play more of a defensive character if I'm going to go in this tree, I'm going to go with ward over the bullet damage. Bullet speed and damage. But you may come back and get this later if you decide that you don't want something else. In the second row, we've got suspension, duration of phase lock, and we've got kinetic reflection. It's a kill skill, which is, they had these in Borderlands, they just didn't have them named kill skills. But anyway, after killing an enemy, you gain the ability to deflect enemy bullets, sending them flying toward nearby enemies. You take reduced damage from deflected bullets. Kinetic reflection only works with bullets, so I'm assuming grenades and rockets and things like that will not be reflected. And this effect lasts for a short time. Now, if it's anything like Borderlands, I think that the kill skills are going to last for about 6 seconds, or the buff that you get is going to last for about 6 seconds after you kill somebody. So, with 5 out of 5 points in kinetic reflection, you get a 50% damage reduction from all bullets, which is already really good. And on top of that, you get a deflection chance of 100%, and the deflected bullet does 100% of the damage. So it's like the guys are shooting themselves. That's pretty crazy. I think that's going to be one of those necessities that you have to take if you're going to be in this build, or in this tree, I'm sorry. So So we get down to row 3, we've got Fleet, we've got Converge, and we've got Inertia. Inertia is another kill skill. Killing an enemy causes your shields to quickly regenerate. I already like that because I like regeneration. And increases your reload speed for a few seconds. Seems pretty dang good. We've got Fleet. Your movement speed increases your movement speed increases while your shields are depleted. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a 50% buff in your movement speed when your shields are gone, which I guess gives you time to run away and heal, but in this game you really don't run away, you don't heal, because there is no like healer where you can just cast a heal spell. So I guess you can run away, kind of regroup, reload, maybe toss a couple transfusion grenades, do something that's going to heal you. I'm not exactly sure if I like that or not. Anyway, so beyond that, let me get off my soapbox. Converge is actually really great. Now you notice that everything up until this point has 5 out of 5 points you can put into it. Converge only has 1 point, and they're calling these 1-point skills game changers. And they call them that for a reason, because they are game changers. It's going to change the game. Ha ha ha. Anyway, so action skill augmentations are going to augment your action skill. Hey, look at me. Anyway, so this one, your phase lock ability now also pulls nearby enemies towards the original target, deals a small amount of damage to all of the affected enemies. So what that means is you're going to cast phase lock on somebody, which is going to basically create a black hole on them and suck all of the other enemies towards it. I'm already seeing that this is going to be great for an AoE build, and when we take most of the motion tree and some of the Cataclysm tree, I think an AoE build is going to be absolutely ridiculous, especially for a solo build. Anyway, so I'm going to put 4 out of 5 points in Inertia and grab 1 in Converge. I could put 5 in here, I could put 10 in here, it doesn't really matter, but I want to put 5 in this row total because that gets us down to Quicken, which increases the cooldown rate of our Phase Lock's ability. So this is the 30% reduction in cooldown rate, which is going to take our 13-second cooldown to a 9-second cooldown, or 9.1, I think the math is. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to do that in my head. Anyway, the next one is Subsequence. Another augmentation. When an enemy under the effects of your phase lock dies, there's a chance of your phase lock ability to seek out and affect another target. That is really, really awesome, because when you put 5 out of 5 points into it, it's a 100% chance. That's sick. So now, not only are all the enemies going to be sucked towards your phase locked enemy, now if you kill that phase locked enemy while phase lock is on them, your phase lock's going to jump to another enemy. So it's going to be a constant, just barrage of phase locks, which is really neat. And the last one is called Thought Lock. It's an action skill alteration. Now, I don't know if alteration is going to alter the word phase lock into Thought Lock, meaning that anything that would affect phase lock now doesn't. I can't imagine that they would do that because it takes 2 action skill augmentations to get to Thought Lock. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work, but this changes your phase lock. Instead of locking them in place, it now turns them on their friends, which is really good, especially if all the augmentations still affect it. If all the augmentations don't affect it, it's going to be a shit ability and you probably should never take it. But regardless, that is the motion tree. So you can see why that is kind of like the defensive phase lock AoE type thing, right? I guess you get that? All right, let's move on to the harmony tree. Now, as I said before, this is a healing tree. This is mainly a healing tree. The first skill you can take is Mind's Eye. Critical hit damage and melee damage. In a healing tree, I'm probably not going to take that. We get over to Sweet Release. If the enemy you have phase locked is killed, it generates life orbs that automatically seek out and heal you and your friends. The healing is stronger when you or your friend's health is low. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I can see myself taking this on every single build. That is going to add a lot of survivability to the Siren. So let's go ahead and take 5 out of 5 points in that, just because I think it's badass. With 5 out of 5 points in it, your life orbs created are 5, and each life orb restores up to 15% of your health. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but the health gain in this game, compared to Borderlands, has been completely revamped. Now you get more health if you... Let's see. You get more health if you're low on health, and less health if you're high on health. High. Anyway, so... there's no percentage that shows what each life orb is going to do, but it can do a maximum of 15%. So with 5 life orbs dropped, you've got a 75% heal if you're playing solo. That's ridiculous. For every single phase locked enemy that you kill, you can almost constantly stay alive. That's awesome. So anyway, let's move down to row 2. We've got Restoration. Shooting other players heals them and also increases your maximum health. This makes a return. This used to be called Cauterize, and it was a Roland ability, I believe. And I never took it in Roland's tree because I never really thought it had a place in a Roland build. But if you're going to be a healer, it may actually make sense. Now, a little disclaimer on this. I don't like the mechanic of taking my focus off of the enemy to heal a target by shooting them. And that never really made logical sense to me. But I guess you're getting a bonus maximum health too. I never really liked Cauterize, and I don't think this is going to be any better because you gotta like, your guy's like jumping around and shooting people, and you're like, hold still, jackass, I'm trying to heal you, and it just never really worked for me. So I don't really like this, but Wreck is good. While you have an enemy phase locked, you gain increased fire rate and damage with all gun types. Now imagine that with Subsequence, where it's going to bounce back and forth between your phase locked enemies. You're always going to have an enemy phase locked, so this is actually really good. So let's put 5 out of 5 points into that. We get an additional 50% fire rate and 30% damage. That's great. Now beyond that, we've got our row 3 here. We've got Elated, Recompense, I guess is how you pronounce that, and Res. Now, Recompense, when you take health damage, there's a chance that your attacker takes damage equal to the amount of health you lost. Now, I don't know what they're trying to say by health damage. They kind of highlighted health damage specifically. You'd think if health damage wasn't a thing, that they would have just said when you take damage. But I guess there's bullet damage, incendiary damage, corrosive damage. I don't know if health damage is another type of damage that has not been talked about yet, or if that's like a bleeding effect, or what that is. But anyway, you have a 50% chance to deal that same amount of damage to your attacker. I don't know how good that's going to be. Elated, while you have a phase-locked enemy, you and your friends regenerate health. And when you put 5 out of 5 points into that, regenerates 5% of your health per second. That is silliness. That is great. Especially if you got a party of like 4 people, you're constantly healing all of them. That's a really neat ability. And then we've got Res. You can instantly revive a friend in the fight for your life by using your phase lock on them. Now, if we're getting down to Res, while we have Quicken, every 9 seconds we can res somebody. That's almost an essential that you, if you are Maya and you're in a party of 4, that you take that, or at least one of the Mayas in the party takes that, because that is amazing. Moving beyond that, we've got Sustenance. You constantly regenerate health. The lower your current health, the more powerful the regeneration. Now this says if you put 5 out of 5 points into it, you regenerate up to 2% of the health you're missing every second. Now that is an interesting idea for the health regen. So basically what that means is if I have 1,001 health and I'm missing 1,000 of it, I'm at 1 health, I'm going to regenerate 2% of the health I'm missing. So I'm going to regenerate 200 health. If I have 1,001 health and I only have 200 missing, I'm only going to regenerate 2% of 200, which is only 40 health, right? Did I do that math right? No. 2% of 200 would be 4 health. Ha! All right. So anyway, is that right? I'm stupid. Anyway, let's move on. You can correct my math in the comment section. We've got Life Tap, which is a kill skill. Killing an enemy causes you to steal health from an enemy you damage. This effect lasts a short while. Again, I'm assuming 6 seconds. With 5 out of 5 points into it, your life steal is 6%. So after you kill somebody, you've got a 6% life steal on every bullet you shoot, or every damage that you do, I guess. It doesn't say bullet specifically, for 6 seconds. So that's kind of neat. And the last one is Scorn. I don't know how I feel about this one, but at least it gives us a chance to talk about another mechanic. This is a melee override skill. You throw an orb of slag that constantly damages enemies near it. This ability has a cooldown. Perform a regular melee attack when Scorn is on cooldown. It's got a cooldown of 18 seconds, in case you guys can't see that. I can't tell what is cutting off and what is not being cut off. Anyway, so Scorn is kind of neat. Now the cool thing about this is Slag. Slag is a new mechanic, and it's replacing explosive damage from Borderlands 1. So we've got Incendiary, we've got Shock, we've got Corrosion, and we used to have Explosion, but we now have Slag. And what Slag does is it coats the enemy in a slag, and once they're coated in that slag, they take additional damage. Wow, how many times can I say slag in about a 10-second span? Anyway, so that's a neat mechanic that they've got there. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, but at least it gives you looks like a ranged melee attack, which might be kind of neat. It just doesn't seem like it really fits in the harmony tree. Not a lot of harmony that goes with that. Anyway, so let's move on to the Cataclysm tree. Again, I'm trying to speed through this. I don't want you guys to be sitting around for, 30, 45 minutes while I talk about this shit. So obviously, we got to take our phase lock again. We've got Flicker, increases the chance to cause status effects. So you got Fire, Shock, Corrosive, and Slag are all going to have an increased chance. With 5 out of 5, that gives you a 30% more likely chance to cause elemental effects. That's pretty good. The other one is magazine size and reload speed, which may be important to you, but it's not important right off the bat. So let's go ahead and take Flicker. We want to light people on fire as fast as possible. We've got Immolate and Helios. Let's look at Immolate first. It's the lesser of the two. Adds fire damage to all of your shots fired while in fight for your life. The additional fire damage is based on the damage of the weapon you're firing. So with 5 out of 5, you get 50 extra % damage as fire damage. I'm assuming that means if you have a gun that does 100 damage and you shoot somebody with it in fight for your life mode, you're going to do 150 damage to that person, 50 of which is going to be fire damage. Now, I don't like this perk because it's a I don't know, perk or skill, whatever you want to call them, because it's like a defeatist skill, which means you assume I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be in fight for your life mode, so I'm gonna need that extra damage. Why don't you just be good and not die, and then you don't need it? You know what I'm saying? So, let's look at Helios. Helios is much better. Phase locking an enemy causes a fiery explosion, damaging all nearby enemies. Haha, we're starting to get into some serious synergy with this thing. So let's assume we went through the motion tree. We got Converge, and we have Subsequence. So Converge is going to draw everybody in to the Helios explosion. Subsequence, when that person in phase lock dies, Subsequence is going to bounce to another person, which will then explode again, I'm assuming, because you're still re-phase locking somebody, right? So, I don't know. That seems really badass, especially when we move down into this tier, or this row, and we've got another ability called Cloud Kill. Shooting an enemy creates a lingering acid cloud, dealing constant corrosive damage to enemies who touch it. Only one cloud can be active at a time, and the cloud lasts for 5 seconds. So, now we've got a fiery explosion, a cloud that they're all choking in. They're being drawn into all that. They can't get away from it, and it's bouncing back and forth between them all. If you have Thought Lock as well, not only that, but the guy who's phase lock is now also attacking everybody. It seems like she's going to be crazy AoE stuff. Then we've got Backdraft and Chain Reaction. Backdraft is a melee ability, which I never really liked. Melee in Borderlands just doesn't really have a place. It's going to, it seems like, with 0, but I think they realize that once you get past level like 10, 15 even, melee is just useless. It doesn't do any damage. It may do 5 or 10% damage of the enemy's health, maybe, especially when you get up into the 60s, it just doesn't do anything. So you would really have to spec into melee to make it worth it, but if you want to, this is going to allow your melee attacks to do additional fire damage. Also, when your shields become depleted, you create a fiery explosion, damaging nearby enemies. Now, depending on how you're playing, you may not want to be in range to damage your enemies with a fiery explosion, but you could go a straight Cataclysm build and make a melee close quarters combat build, and I think it would actually be viable. Chain Reaction, while you have an enemy phase locked, all of your shots that hit enemies have a chance to ricochet and hit another nearby enemy. Chain Reaction only works with bullets, so rockets, grenades, things like that will not work. That's going to give you a 40% chance of ricochet with every bullet that you shoot when you have an enemy phase lock, which is neat. The next ability is one of my favorite in the skill tree that she's got. Reaper, you deal increased gun damage to all enemies who have more than 50% health. And that is a 40% damage increase. That's a lot of damage. If I have a 100 damage gun, it does 140 damage. If I have a 1000 damage gun, it does 1400 damage. That's a big increase. Now, it's only when they are 40% or 50% health or more, but I mean, how often are you not going to be able to kill something under 50, and how often do you want to kill something that's got a lot of life? So, I mean, Reaper just seems like it would be really good, especially with a sniper rifle. Maybe your sniper rifle doesn't have enough damage to one-shot them normally, but now that you're doing 40% more damage, it does. So Reaper just seems like it's a really cool ability. Anyway, Blight Phoenix finally makes its return. Phoenix is an amazing ability that was from Borderlands 1. It was the staple of the Firefly build that was one of the best builds that Lilith had. Anyway, Blight Phoenix comes back, and now, not only does Phoenix do fire damage, it also does corrosive damage. I hope they nerfed it a little bit, otherwise Blight Phoenix is going to be an amazing build. Anyway, the damage is based on your level and the level of Blight Phoenix. You can put 5 points into it. It gives you damage level 5, which is an irrelevant number. It's arbitrary. And then we've got Ruin, another augmentation. Phase Lock now slags, electrocutes, and corrodes all nearby enemies. So you could really go a Cataclysm build and then sneak down into the motion tree and grab Converge and then put some points into Sweet Release. That would work just as well, but that's a hell of a lot of elements going on at one time. It is a veritable clusterfuck, if you will, for lack of better terms. And guys, that about does it for the I guess the skill tree analysis for Maya. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I might do if I were playing Maya right now. If you held a gun to my head and said, pick a build, let's do it. So I'm going to put 5 out of 5 in ward. I'm going to put 5 out of 5 in kinetic reflection, 1 in converge, and 4 in inertia. I'm going to grab quicken, I'm going to grab subsequence, and I'm going to grab thought lock. That is going to be my initial path through the motion tree. I'm also going to come over, I'm going to grab Flicker, I'm going to grab Helios, and I'm going to grab Cloud Kill. That's going to give me that amazing AoE. I'm going to put 5 in Sweet Release. Definitely. I've got 3 more. What to do with 3 more? I guess let's go ahead and grab... I don't know. Wreck might be more important than Chain Reaction. I'm going to grab 3 in Wreck. That seems like it would be a pretty solid build. If you wanted to go the melee elemental build, we could go straight Cataclysm. You could do 5 out of 5 here, 5 out of 5 here, 5 out of 5 in Helios. Why not? More fire. Let's do Cloud Kill. We're going to need that. We're going to need Backdraft. We're going to need Reaper. We're going to need Blight Phoenix. And we're going to grab Ruin. We're going to sneak down. And actually, in this build, we may actually want Accelerate instead. Actually, scratch that. We're probably not. We're probably going to want Ward instead, so assume that I took Ward because you're going to be in melee, you're going to want that extra shield and recharge. Then we're probably going to want to take, I would assume, Kinetic Reflection. Let's go ahead and grab 1 in Converge because we're going to need that. I'm going to grab a couple in the Sweet Release, going to give me a little bit of life. That seems like it would be a pretty neat build. You're going to draw everything in to your phase lock. If you're standing on your phase lock, it's going to draw everything to you. Then you've got all this extra elemental damage. You've got fiery explosions happening. You've got your Blight Phoenix that's going to pop when you kill somebody. Your action skill's also going to slag, electrocute, and corrode everything. That seems like it could be a pretty good build too. Let's look at a healing build real quick. 5 out of 5 in Sweet Release. I guess if you want to go straight healer, you'd have to take Restoration. Let's do Elated. We obviously need that. We're going to grab Res. That one's not really super important for a healer build. Constantly regenerate health. Why not? Life Tap. Why not? You're going to steal stuff from enemies. Why not grab Scorn just because you can? That's going to at least keep you out of the shit. Let's grab our shield that we liked. Let's see. We could also, I guess we really don't need much of anything else if we're going to go straight healer. So we could come back in and we could grab Wreck. I guess that's really all that would need to be important in this tree. You could do, if you wanted to, you could start building out your Kinetic Reflection like we were in the Harmony tree again. Let's go for some more shield regen. Let's grab Converge, and let's lower a bit of our phase lock. That seems like it would be a decent Harmony build. I don't know. These are going to be, I'm going to actually release some builds once the game actually comes out and we get a little bit more information on how the trees and the skills and all that kind of stuff's actually going to work. But this at least seems like a good starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. Hopefully you guys got a lot of information. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. I tried to talk fast so I could get through it quickly. We're at 20-something minutes, so I got through it a lot faster than I was expecting to. Anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments, leave that stuff in the comment section below. If you guys have any ideas for your own builds, also leave that stuff in the comments section below. If you cannot get a hold of me in the comments section down there, obviously head over to my channel at TrendKillV01 and check me out. I promise I will have a ton of Borderlands 2 stuff when it comes out. And also, if you like what you see over there, if you would do me the favor and subscribe to me, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, guys, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.